Choyo sampo pa gyo trashi pa Tuche tempe trinle yarngoda Pelge drolor zampe ze pareche Pande alame shabla solvade Omo aguro vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajra sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha san Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha san Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara sumati monisha sane kar Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara Sumatimonisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Ahum Dhagi Jitsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Sikso So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drupra Jingelo Soni Sodan Dikdun Shabe Tse Dungi Namke Yinsu Labchen Soni Yonsu Zoba Dan Chera Nyedun Chanra Jingelo Ninsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudro Lekshune Chanchu Drube Gegen Kunshi Shi Tungen Dela Drupra Jingelo Dagi Lona Chela Chokpa Dan Chemin Samchur Ngemba Shiwa Dan Chedan Tumbe Dede Malupa Beme Lungi Drupra Jingelo Dorna Tingne Tsirawa Tamche Dan Techi Pardu Nekavat Rese Kemne Lama Kele Me Tukje Chingi Dala Sikso Sol Gongya Drewe Nyamda Dachala Jitsun Lame Tuje Rabgongne Kodan Sunge Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Toprash Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Cheki Pela Longche Ching Sadan Lamge Yunde Rabzone Dorje Changi Kopa Nyurtobe Sho Pakyuke Kodandagi Luo Pakyuke Sondandaki Pakyuke Tudandagi Yateyerme Chiktu Jingiolo Pakyuke Kudang Dhagilu Pakyuke Sungandandagina Pakyuke Tudang Dhagi Teyerme Chikto Chingilo Makyuke Kudang Dhagilu Makyuke Sundandagina Makyuke Tudang Dhagi Teyerme Chikto Jingiolo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni shipeki choishiameto Tramare rabalingashi Nyedegen padi Sangye shintu Mikte ulowarki Drokunam dashingla Parashoyedam Guru Ratna Mandrala Kam Niryatayami Sangye Chedan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Trola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Soge Chonam La Jancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Haya ke dan ludan chinke drubundan da mikenam da drowa kunge dhanama che tsampa tamche ketu dage che tento.
Good morning. Sometimes we can look at the world around us, the reality that surrounds us, everything that we see, etc., and ask ourselves, will it ever be possible for there really to be peace, a state of peace, where there'll be less war, less suffering on this planet Earth? Will there be, will humans have less, will have more wisdom, less selfishness? And if we look on a more generally, often it's difficult to be optimistic because we see in so many ways situations that's degenerating. In some places it's getting better, but generally speaking, it's not a model. It's not the model situation where there's where things get better year after year, day after day, year after year. Also, I mean, just look at the increase. Look at the increase in mental and psychological suffering around the world, not just in adults, but also in adolescents and children, and also the elderly. And when we see all of this, it can be frustrating. One could ask oneself, will it ever be possible? When I was studying debate, each monastery at the end of a debate session, when there's a debate, mostly when we're talking about a public debate, when we're all together, this where it's one to one. There are times there's 1-to-1 or or two debating with many. Anyone could stand up and ask. And in those specific moments, or specifically in these times, when one debate would finish, every monastery would have their own way of closing, as like they're like a mini debate within it, but it's like auspicious words. In the monastery of Serame, when we concluded a debate, we would say, the syllable of Manjushri, the D, would end, and which means if it is a human, a sentient being, he has the ability to reach Buddhahood. Does a sentient being have the ability to reach Buddhahood? Yes. So is it a sentient being? Does he have the potential to become a Buddha? And then the answer is yes. So because of this interdependence. So when we go look one by one, we'll never find anyone who is not able to develop altruism, respect, gratitude, wisdom. There's no one who doesn't have this ability. That he more, he less, for various reasons. Maybe one first needs to face one's own traumas and overcome certain things, but there's no one who can't find a state of peace if guided and is able to follow a healthy path for himself. Like for everyone at the same time, if they go into a cycle, into a vicious negative cycle, a negative interdependence, then they will generate and experience suffering. But there's no one who doesn't have this potential to find peace. And we need to understand this first by observing ourselves, starting from ourselves, from seeing that we can do it, that our mind is malleable. And if we direct our thoughts, our emotions in a certain way, our mind will take that habit, it will follow that direction. And one fundamental point in along this path is having faith in ourselves, believing in our own potential. Because believing in our own potential is what will take us after in believing in others. Because if I say, okay, I can do it, I have the characteristics, I have the ability to be able to get out of the cycle of suffering myself, it's possible for me. And then when I see that others are similar to me in so many ways, if I can do it, then why can't others do it? And from this, we can have this faith. Otherwise, the danger that can come about is that along our path, at a certain point, we can develop a kind of love and affection and care towards others, so that we care for others. But there's a moment where one can have this sense of love for others, but also mistrust. Yeah, it would be, it would be wonderful if everyone were happy, but I don't have faith in them. I don't trust them. It would be great if our world could be less polluted, but look what's happening. It's useless to do anything because it's just not possible. But to have this faith in others and develop this faith, we need first of all to start by developing faith in ourselves. I can do it. It's said that the same level of faith that we should have in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, what we call, and our guru, or the path that we're following, we should have that same faith in ourselves. Because if we don't have faith in ourselves, we won't be able to take the necessary steps. Every once in a while, I hear people say, "Oh, well, I'm like this. Anyway, I'm like this." There, I'll see T-shirts. You see one T-shirt I saw once that said something like, "I'm like this, accept me for who I am," which is more or less like saying, if whether you like it or not, it's just not my problem. This is the way I am. You need to accept me for how I am. And I agree. I need to accept you for how you are, and I shouldn't get frustrated or try to impose something different on you or expect you to be different. But you don't need to accept yourself the way you are. What do I mean to say with this? It's not that you should feel guilty and go against oneself, but it's when we recognize in ourselves the harmful aspects, in the aspects that harm us. We should be open. We need to be open to directing ourselves differently and not have. I don't mean with this at all to say to go against oneself and say I'm bad or anything like this, but say, okay, I have this habit and it's harmful. It's harmful to me and to others. I need to stop cultivating it. I need to go in another direction. I need to generate other qualities. I don't want to cultivate and continue on with this habit. And that's really clear, isn't it? Okay, so, and in the middle of all this, what's fundamental is that we can do it. We have this ability, we have the strength, we have the resources to change our habits. Something that happens, though, and I see this in this in the Buddhist those who get close to Buddhism. There's this moment where we we start to learn new concepts and we start to see reality differently. And this generates a tremendous amount of hope with it. So it's so beautiful, but it can happen. Like once I was explaining the Bodhisattva Charavatara, and we were in the 6th chapter, and this happened in Brazil. The 6th chapter is the chapter on patience. It's a marvelous, marvelous chapter. The guide of the way of the Bodhisattva Charavatara, is a wonderful text, and in the 6th chapter is particularly beautiful. It constructs a whole this whole process, and at one, it takes us to the conclusion that there is no reason whatsoever to get angry. And so we were reading, we were talking about the 6th chapter together, and towards the end, someone said, "Okay, but Lama, there's something that's just that doesn't work. That really irks me. I mean, yeah, I've reread these things many times. I've heard them again and again. It's beautiful, but I've been here for 30 years, 20 years, whatever it was. I've understood that I shouldn't get angry. It's absolutely clear. But when anger comes, it comes. Just understanding it doesn't work. I mean, why are we here for hours and hours and hours to talk about why we shouldn't get angry, but when it doesn't work, when it's really the time necessary to, when it's at the moment, it's just, it doesn't help. And he was quite angry when he was explaining this and saying this, and that's a very important point. And I'm going to answer in the same way that I answered him. Never, when teachings are transmitted, is there the expectation that through the understanding of Dharma that one realize it. The process comes in 3 phases. What we're doing now, when we read a teaching, when we listen to a teaching, when we acquires new information, it's called listening. We're acquiring information, tupa in Tibetan. We're listening. We're acquiring information. After listening, there's the next step, next phase, which we do also together, even though it's an individual process, but a part we do also together. And it's sampa in Tibetan, which means understanding, understand. So we go into different logical reasonings, we give examples, so that concept, that knowledge is not just something that someone told us, but then becomes our own certainty. So in these days, we started by saying the obsession with self-gratification is one of the main causes of our suffering. And selfishly speaking, it's better to be altruistic. We talked about the importance of feeling gratitude towards others, etc., etc. One listens and hears again and again. It seems right, but it's something that, it's still something that we've heard from someone else. It's not my own certainty. When I go into my own process of reflection, also debate in the sense of like to discuss various aspects, to analyze inside, I get to the conclusion that I'm convinced deeply that it's better to be altruistic, and that selfishness hurts me, not something that someone told me, but as a certainty, as a personal deep certainty, or a certainty of my own. This is the state of reaching the state of understanding, sampa in Tibetan. When one completes this part of comprehension, of understanding, the 3rd step, and if we were to divide the parts into percentages, to get to the realization, I would say that it's more or less like this. We have maybe 10% of listening, maybe 20% of understanding, and 70% of meditation. The part of listening is the smallest part, and then we need maybe twice as much time to understand, maybe even a little bit more. But when there's something that I have understood, that I know, for which I have no doubts, but what I need to transform it is not conceptual. It's on a deeper, spontaneous level inside. So I need to familiarize myself with that state to such a point that it becomes natural and spontaneous. So, for example, meditating on love, remembering that the word meditating literally means familiarize oneself, gom in Tibetan. So the translation of meditate is not always the best, because when we say meditate in English, the idea that the idea that's given is about reflecting on its meaning. I need to meditate on this thing. I need to we think that it refers to thinking about something or reflecting about something. Instead, in Tibetan, gom has nothing to do with reflecting on its meaning. Instead, it's about familiarizing yourself with that concept. So meditating on love, meditating on love means I induce a feeling of love, and I stay in that state where I'm feeling love for as long as I can without distractions. And in that way, I'm familiarizing myself with the feeling of love. Meditating on love is not about reflecting on the meaning of love. That would be meditating on the concept of love. But we don't need to familiarize ourselves with the concept of love. We need to familiarize ourselves with the state of consciousness of loving. How can I do that? By generating that state of consciousness and staying in that state of consciousness more again and again until it becomes natural and spontaneous. So getting back to the example of patience and anger, it's wonderful to listen to the teachings, to read the text as part of listening, understanding that there's no reason whatsoever to get angry. It's wonderful to reflect on the meaning and get to one's own conclusion that anger brings no benefit, only damage. But once I've gotten to that conclusion, I need to allow myself to meditate on patience. When I'm fine, when I'm feeling good. What happens, unfortunately, we try to face our mental defilements when they're manifest, not when they're latent. For example, most of us, we recognize that it's not good to get angry. But when do we actually face our own anger? When it's already manifesting, or when it's not manifest, when it's latent. How many actually face their own anger when it's latent? But we do that practically never, but that's the moment that we should do it. Because when I'm strongly conditioned by anger, because it's a very, very strong feeling, we'll never be able to meditate on patience and apply the antidote once anger has overcome us, overpowered us. We need to meditate, generate the state of patience when I'm in a protected context, when I'm in a context, when there's no real reason, when there's no reason to get angry. But it's tiresome, sure. But but meditating is that. Let's give an example, a metaphor. It's quite banal. I want to go on. I want to follow a certain diet, and it's well, well, it's not that easy actually. I I go to a doctor, a dietitian who tells me that for you, you should follow this diet, and he explains the diet I should do, and I listen and I agree. And in that moment, I've concluded the part of listening. But now I want to understand the mechanisms of this diet to the point so that you know, so I get to the point that even if the dietitian tells me that I don't need to do this diet, that I say no, yes, it's my own conviction. It's not something that someone's told me, but it's something that I believe. I've understood the logic behind it, the why, the how, etc. And at that point, I need to try to apply practical methods. So I don't eat this, I eat that, I eat this instead of that. I put the diet into practice. And I know my weaknesses. And there'll be moments where it'll be more difficult to stay on the diet. Like now, for example, Christmas is coming. And I know already that during the Christmas period, COVID allowing, there'll be the party at my auntie's house or the grandma's house, and maybe my auntie, she makes that dish with so much love, the dish that I can't eat, but then when I'm there and everybody's eating, and it'll be hard to say no because I love it so much, etc., etc. So the risk is that I won't respect my diet and I'll eat it. And we say, okay, just once, what's the problem? Because if you break a vow, if if you break a vow once, you break it again and again until you renew that vow. So what do? Okay, I'm not actually there at my auntie's house. Christmas hasn't arrived, so what do? First, I reflect on all the reasons why I'm doing this diet, how important the diet is, etc., etc., until I get to a very clear conclusion that no matter what happens, I need to stay on this diet. My health is important. My health is important. This life is precious, out of respect for myself and others, etc., etc. Once I've gotten to this conclusion, I set it aside. And I imagine myself at my auntie's house. Imagine myself at a Christmas dinner in that situation where it's difficult for me to keep my commitment. And I let that desire to eat that dish come up, that feeling that comes to me spontaneously. But then in visualization, I apply all the reasoning that I know, and I say, no, I need to act differently. So I'll find a way to tell my auntie that I don't eat that without offending her, and even if she does get offended, I will find a way to not be how do I say how I'll make sure that I don't cave to her emotional blackmailing, and so in visualization I find a way. I find how I can act to respect my own commitment to my diet, and I need to repeat again and again because maybe the first couple times the visualization will end with me eating the dish, but I repeat it again, 5, 10, 20 times. And when I'm able to do it well, when I find the resource to do it well, when we imagine something for our mind, it's as if we're actually directly experiencing that thing. There's some studies actually that talk about this aspect of our mind that say that on the point of view of the brain, it's as if there's no difference for the mind. So what one experiences directly with his senses and what one imagines. So as I reflect on why I should follow this diet, it's a concept that I'm reinforcing. When I'm imagining a situation and I act accordingly, I'm creating an experience. And that experience talks much louder than any understanding that we could have. So I'm familiarize myself with keeping my diet, and in visualization I imagine difficult situations. The more often I do it, the easier it will be after to face the actual situations when I'm there. Is that clear? One thing is following a diet, even though that's quite difficult. Another thing is going against our own selfishness, something much deeper and a longer process. But this morning, I wanted to put emphasis on this. It's wonderful to study and learn and reflect and listen to teachings over and over again. This is really positive. And together, we do this process of listening and also the process of analysis, reflection. We repeat something again and again. Together, often we follow analytical meditations together, where we follow a logical process that takes us to a conclusion. But meditation is fundamental along this path. And this meditating is something that we need to do. No one can do it for us, and it requires effort, because it means facing our conflicts when they're not manifest. It means putting effort into patience when we're calm and relaxed. It means generating love and going against hate when we're not feeling those emotions. Sometimes it means applying an antidote, working on our inner growth, mostly when those mental defilements are not manifest. I don't know if that's clear. Because this allows us to do to work deeply. So then, when we will actually be in those situations, we'll have a reference point of a positive experience on how to act in that situation when it comes up. Now, the meditation is not about reflecting on the meaning of something, but instead generating a state of consciousness that we want to familiarize ourselves with. And there are different types of meditations. And we'll look at two types briefly now. There's an analytical meditation and single-pointed meditation. Chegom e Chokum. For me, it's important to unite the two. We start with analytical meditation that takes us to single-pointed meditation. Let's remember that meditation is to rest our mind on a chosen object, on a specific object, and we leave that mind on that object without distractions, without other thoughts, and with clarity, and so without mental fogginess. It means that one fundamental characteristic of meditation, that meditation needs an object of meditation, an object on which we can rest the mind on it. It's not just concentrate. The mind relaxes from distractions and is placed on an object where it can rest on one specific object. This specific object can be a concept, an image, a sound, a feeling, but also an emotion, a state of consciousness. So one can generate a feeling of love and stay in that feeling of love. One can generate a feeling of satisfaction and meditate on that state of satisfaction, and so on. To generate this state, so something that's really important. We can't meditate on something that you don't know. You can't meditate on something that you cannot generate. So you need to familiarize yourself with that thing. You need to come into contact with it. And in the Vajrayana path, for example, we use a lot of symbolism to help direct our mind. Let me give you an example. There are 4 qualities that are very important to develop along our path. Love, compassion, joy, and for the virtue and joy of others, and equanimity, which are the limitless meditations that we call. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings never be separated from the great happiness that is beyond all misery. And may all beings dwell in equanimity, unaffected by attraction to dear ones and aversion to others. These are the 4 limitless meditations. And then Lama Ganchen added 3 prayers, 3 aspirations, specific to the times in which we live. A dedication for health, for the environment, and for peace. But the qualities that we need to develop so they become limitless are: we need love, desire happiness, compassion, desire that others be free of suffering. We need to rejoice for the well-being and the happiness of others, and equanimity, to not have attraction to one and aversion to another. Is have the same attitude towards everyone. When, for example, in the Vajrayana we recite mantras, for example, take any mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, for example, or the mantra of Tara. In any sadhana, there are many different visualizations that can be done while one recites the mantra. But the most common visualization is where, from one's heart, there's the very subtle mind in the aspect of the seed syllable, like the syllable hum, and around is the mantra that goes, it's normally, turns around clockwise, sometimes anti-clockwise, depending. And then from the mantra of our heart, light rays and nectar emanate, and they go to every sentient being. And when these light rays and nectar get to the beings, they manifest as what one needs, what medicine for who's sick, food for who's hungry, eliminating the state of suffering, helping them get out of their suffering on a gross level and on a deeper, more subtle level, making sure that each one is able to generate a deep state of joy. Once we're able to generate that, these light rays meet them, they are free of their suffering, they reach a state of peace and joy, and then those lights come back and they reabsorb to our heart as we rejoice for their state of well-being and peace. When the light rays emanate, they go to everyone in the exact same way, not more to one and less to another. In this visualization, we're familiarizing ourselves with love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Once we emanate the light rays to everyone, we're generating equanimity, even if we're not thinking, oh, I'm not thinking about the meaning of equanimity. I'm generating a state of equanimity because I'm giving to everyone in the same way, independently of who they are. I don't have more attraction to one and aversion to others. I'm giving to everyone in the same way. So once I visualize the light rays that go to everyone in the same way, I'm already generating an inner state of equanimity. When these light rays go to the beings, and I desire that they become free from their suffering, because the light rays should eliminate their suffering, help them get out of their suffering. So what's that state of consciousness I'm generating by doing that? Is compassion. In the same way, at the same time, I want those light rays to bring them happiness. I want them to be happy. So I'm generating love. The light rays come back to me and they absorb into me. And as I imagine all the beings in a state of well-being, peace, and happiness, and I'm generating joy as I rejoice. So with visualization, we are inducing 4 states of consciousness that are extremely important, and we're familiarizing ourselves with these 4. We're using as a tool to reach these states of consciousness our own visualization. Because when I send light rays to everyone in the same way, whether I'm thinking about it or not, I'm generating a state of equanimity. When I see beings that are suffering and those light rays liberate them from that suffering, whether I'm thinking about it or not, I'm generating a state of compassion. So through what is called the various sadhanas, or there are many forms of visualization, we're generating states, certain states of consciousness through which we, sadhanas that we, we're not just reciting thousands and thousands of mantras. What we're actually doing is familiarizing ourselves with certain states of consciousness that are virtuous, through visualization, and so that then they arise spontaneously and naturally, familiarizing ourselves to such a degree. So even if you're not conceptually aware of what is happening, if you do the visualization correctly and you involve yourself to a minimum degree, you are generating these states of consciousness. And you're familiarizing yourself with these states of consciousness. So love, compassion, etc. Meditating on these things. It's not it doesn't need to be induced exclusively through an analytical process. Also through visualization. Also, all this because we're talking about the practice of Tonlen, which is a meditational practice. It's a practice, as we saw yesterday, where we generate. One, we familiarize ourselves with, how can I say, with the awareness that selfishness harms us. It's the fundamental cause of our suffering. This is the first thing. Then we generate a state of love and compassion towards others, generating consequently a state of consciousness that directly opposes the state of selfishness, the mind of selfishness. Yesterday we explained this practice in quite a great amount of detail. And someone asked me if we could do the practice together. So I think that now we can do a short meditational practice together, not very long. And the, you can, I know two ways of doing the meditational practice of Tonlen. One is in total silence because one knows. Another way, another way is doing it by reciting the verses in Tibetan. Obviously, if you understand Tibetan, you're helping your mind. You're directing your mind. Like, for example, in the Guru Puja, we recite the verse 3 times when we get to the practice of Tonlen, and usually it's recited slowly. And then you go on with the verse of which it's verse number 95. Dene Jetsun Lama Tujechen, and thus, O venerable, compassionate gurus, to whom I'm infinitely grateful. One is visualizing them in front of us. We seek your blessings because there's a part of Tonlen where we think, well, how can I take the suffering onto myself? So I'm asking the blessings to Guru Buddha to have the strength and the ability to take the suffering onto myself. So, tene jetsun lama tuje chen margyur durue titu dunel kun. So, and thus, O venerable, compassionate gurus, we seek your blessings, we ask for your blessings, that all karmic debts, obstacles and sufferings of mother beings may, without exception, ripen upon us now, in this instant, that they come onto us right in this moment, that we may give our happiness and virtue to others, and thereby invest all beings in bliss. This verse makes direct reference to the Tonlen practice, and in reality, we should start the practice of Tonlen from verse 89. And now, without getting into the commentary of the Guru Puja, we talked yesterday at length about this, but simply let's listen and let's try to reflect on these verses, because they should help us induce certain states of consciousness. Having considered how all these pitiful beings, how all these sentient beings have been our mothers and have raised us in kindness again and again, we seek your blessings to develop unaffected, sincere compassion like that of a loving mother for her precious child. There's no difference between us and others. None of us wishes even the slightest of sufferings nor is content with the happiness we have. Realizing this, we seek your blessings that we may enhance the bliss and joy of others. This chronic disease of cherishing ourselves, this obsession with self-gratification, is the cause that gives rise to our unsought suffering. Perceiving this, understanding this, we seek your blessings to blame, begrudge, and destroy the monstrous demon of selfishness. The mind that cherishes all mother beings and would secure them in bliss is the gateway leading to infinite virtue. Seeing this, we seek your blessings to cherish these beings more than our lives, even should they rise up as our enemies. In brief, infantile beings labor only for their own end, while Buddhas work solely for the welfare of others. With a mind understanding the distinctions between the failings of one and the advantages of the other, we seek your blessings to enable us to equalize and exchange ourselves for others. Since cherishing ourselves is the doorway to all torment, this obsession of self-grasping is the doorway to all torment, while cherishing our mothers is the foundation of all that is good. We seek your blessings to make our core practice the yoga of exchanging of self for others. So, exchanging ourself with others is a practice of Tonlen. And thus, O venerable compassionate gurus, we seek your blessings that all karmic debts, obstacles and sufferings of mother beings may, without exception, ripen upon us right now, that we may give our happiness and virtue to others, and thereby invest all beings in bliss. Are we able to see how it's a gradual process that takes us to having equanimity of all beings, seeing how selfishness is so harmful to us, and how beneficial altruism is, and how exchanging self with others and desiring the happiness of everyone, takes us then to the practice of being able to taking on the suffering of others, remembering always this black mass at our heart. I'd say now we can do a brief meditation where we're going to unite these two characteristics, and maybe he who wants to keep this verse that we are going to recite, you can keep it handy, or if you want to stay in silence and meditate while I recite this verse, you can do that too. When we do this verse 3 times, there are specific visualizations that one can do, and they're quite nice. I'll tell you them quickly, even if mostly for those of you who are at the beginning, like most of us, it's better to imagine the black mass at our heart and the black smoke that comes in. But in some specifics, we can imagine that the suffering of others comes in the form of black smoke, coming from the right nostril of the beings and comes into our left nostril, and then from our right nostril, the light. So when we exhale, light rays and go out from our right from our right nostril, light rays go out and they go into the right nostril of beings, and from their left, black smoke that comes into our left nostril. So we're like a, sorry, it's like a mirror, so it's inverted. So from our right goes to your left, and from your left to my right. So we exhale from the right and we inhale from the left. It said that some practitioners are able to do it at the same time. I don't know how that's possible. I tried a couple of times, that where you can exhale from one nostril and inhale from the other. But in visualization, let's imagine this cycle. Then there's also a specific visualization that says the first time that we recite the verse, we take onto ourselves that all the karmic debts, and we focus on the karmic debts, the negative karma of beings. And in that moment, we visualize that at our heart, there's some kind of filth. We see our selfishness as a lot of dirt and filth. And when the negativities of the karmic debts, it's like a great rain and a storm of wind, that takes away all of that filth, and that makes it all disappear. The second recitation, what we focus on the obstacles, which make reference to we mean the mental defilements and the imprints of ignorance. An obstacle. The mental defilements is an obstacle for omniscience. In just a few words, it's mental defilements and their imprints. So the ignorance and the imprints of ignorance and hate and jealousy, etc. They come to us in black smoke. They come inside, and there we visualize our own selfishness as if they were kind of a fortress, a big strong stone. And when the negativities come in, it's like a storm with lightning. And the lightning just breaks up this solid stone of selfishness, and then everything disappears. And then the third time, where we take on the sufferings of mother beings, their physical sufferings, their sicknesses, their mental sufferings, etc. So the first time it's karma, the second time are the mental defilements, and then the third time are the sufferings. We take that on to ourselves in the form of black smoke, and when it comes in, we visualize it as if the black smoke was transforms into wild animals like tigers and such, as if our selfishness, they were like wild animals come in. We imagine our selfishness like cadavers, that eat up our selfishness, and then they disappear. These are visualizations. You don't spend. I mean, this is the time where you're reciting the verse. So as I inhale the black smoke, it's the time to destroy my selfishness. The first time I take the karmic debts, and then their mental defilements, and then their suffering. So it doesn't take a lot of time, and each time I need to also give to others. So I'm giving. In the first time, I give them my happiness. Then the second time, I give them my positive karma, and then the favorable conditions for their path of dharma. So we give to others 3 times, and we take from others 3 times. This is a specific this is an explanation, a specific explanation. When you do Tonlen quickly, instead we'll do it more slowly, where the black smoke goes into the black mass at our heart, weakening it until it disappears. Yesterday evening, I was reading this text written by Kyabshe Dorje Chichen Chang, was the master of Lama Michel Rinpoche, who explained these visualizations, and he repeated often the importance of that every time we inhale the negativities, they need to go into the black mass, and when we are finished with the practice, our body is free of any negativity. It's absolutely light and clean, and he goes into many details in visualization that have to, regarding, eliminating the suffering of others and bringing them joy. It's not the time to go into such detail. I'll leave you room to imagine yourself. I'd say that now we can do this meditation together. Is there a doubt about the meditation of Tonlen? So first we start by taking onto ourselves. So now we're not going to focus on the right and the left. We're just taking and then giving. So the visualization of the left nostril, right nostril, you can do that once you have already some familiarity. Otherwise, all of our attention will go onto, which nostril, we're using, instead of generating the correct mind. We'll do it in a way where it's not too short and not too long. Just one thing before we begin. To do Tonlen practices, to do practices like Tonlen, you can do it. You can do it by yourself, or you can do it also. No, it can be done by itself, or you can do it within other practices like Guru Yoga, etc. The most complete way is to do the practice of Tonlen together with the preliminary practice, which today we'll do. We're not going to comment on any kind of visualization of the preliminaries, because then we would need like 45 minutes even before getting to the Tonlen practice. So the visualization, for example, that the visualization that I've guided many times, for example, at the beginning of self-healing, those are preliminary practice, where first we take refuge, we generate bodhichitta, then there's the purification of the place we invite, the merit field, there's the practice of the 7 limbs to the Buddhas, then we ask for blessings and we receive blessings. When we conclude that, at that point, then we can begin the practice of Tonlen. And it's what we're going to do now. For those of you who are familiar with the preliminary practices, it'll be easier. If for those who are not so familiar, I'll just give a few indications without going into to detail, and we'll put more emphasis on the practice of Tonlen. Okay. We sit in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our head is slightly bent forward, with our mouth relaxed and our eyes slightly closed, looking downwards. We bring our attention to our breath. And we allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. We allow ourselves to relax from distractions. And with kindness, sweetness, we bring our attention to the feeling of our nostrils, of the air that comes in and the air that goes out. We inhale and we exhale. In the space in front of me arises Guru Buddha in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, inseparable from our own Guru and every holy being. Guru Buddha smiles at us. We observe ourselves and we see clearly our physical suffering, mental suffering, our own cycle of suffering caused by our own mental defilements, our ignorance, the karmic forces that we have generated, and our own deep conditionings and habits, and we see our own samsara. We recognize clearly that it doesn't matter where we are, wherever I go, no matter what situation I find myself in, as long as I'm taken by my own mental defilements and my karmic force and these actions done, guided by those, my conditionings, my negative conditionings, inevitably there will be suffering. We strongly desire to experience a deep and stable state of peace and satisfaction that's independent from the conditions around us. We desire to reach the so-called nirvana. And for this reason, we ask help to Guru Buddha and to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. We take refuge. We ask for blessings, guidance, to follow this path of Dharma to be able to get out of our own cycle of suffering. Guru Buddha accepts our requests. Light rays and nectars emanate from his 5 chakras and absorb into our chakras respectively.
Namo Gurubhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Gurubhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Gurubhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Triratnaya.
In the space around us, all sentient beings appear. Our family members, our friends, the people we live with, acquaintances, those to whom we have attraction, and even those for whom we have a kind of aversion. Together with them are all the other beings. We recognize how every being wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. And since each one is taken by his own ignorance, we allow ourselves to see them. And we say to them, your happiness is as important to me as my own. Your suffering is as important to me as my own. We allow ourselves for a moment to go beyond our own selfishness. We allow ourselves to love every being without any kind of discrimination. To help every being reach a state of peace, a state of nirvana, we ourselves need to become Buddhas. In Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drubrasho Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drubrasho Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho.
An emanation of Guru Buddha comes towards us, enters through our crown and sits joyously at our heart. We bring the result into the path. We become inseparable from Guru Buddha. From our heart, inseparable from the heart of Guru Buddha, light rays and nectars emanate, going toward every sentient being, adapting to all of their needs, bringing them to a state beyond suffering, a deep state of joy and peace. The light rays come back and reabsorb into our heart.
Tamchen dewa dan dewe gyudan dembra kyurchi simchen tamche dunga dan dunga ge gyudan chawra kyurchi simchen tamche dunga mepe dewa dami chawra kyurchi simchen tamche nyerin chada nidan drewe tang nyumla nebra kyurchi simchen tamche lusim ge dunga le soshin trayon lusim dewa dan dembra kyurchi simchen tamche nga so topchin china nöchu koryo tangshin samara ne gyurchi simchen tamche dan zambu linge kendro tada chinange shide dan tukun dembra kyurchi.
We strongly desire that every being lives and experiences a deep state of peace, that they reach a state of nirvana, free of every suffering and its cause. For this reason, we ourselves need to reach Buddhahood as soon as possible. With this intention, we're going to now do the practice of Tonglen. Guru Buddha in front of us, it dissolves into a beautiful golden light that comes towards us, enters into our crown and fills up our body, and from our body it expands to the whole universe, where everything dissolves into this golden light. In an instant, from this infinite, empty light, inseparable from bliss, the universe appears, and we appear in it with a body of light. And from our heart, light rays emanate, transforming the environment around us, eliminating any kind of impurity. And in the space in front of us, an ocean of offerings appear that are purified and transformed.
Ranshin chambra ne gyurchi alhada mi chebetse ngosum shamda yeki trul kwensan chete lana me namke kankun kyab gyurchi omo namo bhagavate bensa sarva pramadane tatagataya arahate samya sambudaya Tayata om benze ma tetsab ma vidya benze ma bodhichitta benze maha bodhi mandupa sankramana benze sarva karma avarana vishodhana benze svoha. Demba dan sange danjan jo sempa tamche ki chingi labdan soni yonso tsope nga dan chenpo dan chuki yin nambra takchin samgi mi kyape topki teshin ni tu kyurchi.
In the space in front of us, above this ocean of offerings, Guru Buddha arises, appears in the appearance of our own Guru, seated on a beautiful throne, on a cushion of sun and moon, with his legs crossed, with the right hand in the mudra of teaching the Dharma and the left in meditative concentration. And Guru Buddha smiles at us. inseparable and of the same nature of every holy being, every Buddha. And from his heart, there's a beautiful aura of light that goes to every sentient being. From the depth of our hearts, we ask every holy being to come here in this right moment to bless us. We strongly desire to develop bodhichitta, to open our hearts to every being, to overcome our own selfishness, to be able to reach ourselves a state of Buddhahood, to help every being go beyond his own suffering. We ask all the holy beings, all the Buddhas, Guru Buddha himself, to come here in this right moment to bless us so that we can develop our own qualities. In particular, to bless us so that we can develop bodhicitta. From our heart, light rays emanate that go to Guru Buddha's heart in front of us as a request. From the heart of Guru Buddha in front of us, we imagine that light rays go to the 10 directions, to all the holy beings. Each one comes here. Some are great and as mountains, others are as small as atoms. And like a rain or a snowfall in the ocean, where every snowflake absorbs into the water, every emanation of Buddha absorbs into Guru Buddha visualized in front of us. In this way, the commitment beings, our visualization, becomes inseparable and of the same nature with the wisdom beings. We make requests from the depth of our hearts so that every holy being and Guru Buddha himself can come here now to bless us. Every holy being accepts our request and absorbs into Guru Buddha in front of us and become inseparable and of the same nature. In the presence of Guru Buddha in front of us, we make praise and we prostrate. We make offerings of all kinds. We admit openly all non-virtuous actions that we've computed from beginning of this times, and we take the commitment not to repeat them. We ask for Buddha's blessings to have the strength and clarity to not repeat these actions. We rejoice deeply for all virtuous actions of every holy being and every sentient being. We ask Guru Buddha to remain with us in every moment until we reach Buddhahood ourselves. We ask Guru Buddha to guide us in the Dharma, in every choice that we make, and every word that we say, every thought that we have, to be close to us in our lives, in our lifetime, at our death, in the bardo, and our future lives. We dedicate from the depth of our hearts every positive energy that we've generated, every positive energy that we have generated in the past, and all the positive karma that we will generate in the future. We dedicate it to the enlightenment of every being.
Korwa matong pardo lekshone drola chöke korlo korwa dang dakshen genama chanchub chemborong.
We ask Guru Buddha to bless us, to bless our body, speech and mind, so that we can develop a deep feeling of love and compassion, so that we can develop bodhichitta, overcome our own selfishness, and thus reach a state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. We make a mandala offering as a sign of request of his blessings. We offer the entire universe.
Sangye shintu mikte ulwarki drokun amanda shingla che parasho yedama guru ratna mandala kam niryataya. Sambo pagyo trashipa tuche tempe trinle yarmoda pelge drolo zambe zebrache pande lame shabla solvade. Guru Buddha accetta le nostre richieste.
Guru Buddha accepts our requests, and light rays and nectar of white, red, blue, yellow and green in color emanate from the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha, and they absorb into our respective chakras. We purify our negativities and we revitalize our qualities. We receive our blessings from Guru Buddha, which give us clarity, strength, blessings to develop ourselves, bodhicitta, for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum. Kudan Dagi Lo pakyuke sungdan dage nga pakyuke tukdan dage ye tuen yerme chikto chingi lo makyuke kudan dage lo makyuke sungdan dage nga makyuke tukdan dage ye tuen yerme chikto chingi lo.
We ask Guru Buddha to concede us blessings so that we have the strength and the clarity, recognizing clearly that selfishness does nothing other than generate suffering. This obsession with self-gratification does nothing other than generate selfishness, suffering to ourselves and to others. And those who are wise, who have wisdom, they follow with love and compassion those instead who are taken by ignorance, work only for their own self-gratification. We desire strongly to invert this attitude of ours, expand our selfishness to love every being without any kind of limit. For this reason, now we'll do the Tonlen practice. We ask for the blessings of Guru Buddha to be able to take on to us the suffering of every being and give to them happiness. Inhale and exhale. At the center of our chest, at our heart chakra, there is clearly a black mass, dense, thick, slimy. This is our own selfishness, this obsession with self-gratification and all of its manifestations from anger and hate, dissatisfaction, fear, anxiety, and all other manifestations. In this black mass, there's not just our selfishness, but it brings all together with it all the negative karmic force generated from a beginningless time. This black mass of selfishness is thick, strong, heavy, takes up our space and blocks our breath. This black mass of selfishness doesn't allow us to see others, doesn't allow us to see others. Inhale and exhale. The cause of every suffering, the cause of every sickness, every conflict. We feel overwhelmed, as if we couldn't breathe, just taken by this strong mass of selfishness at our heart chakra. We breathe in and we breathe out. With the blessings of Guru Buddha, we're able for just a moment to put aside our own selfishness, look at it from outside. We allow ourselves for a moment to stop, to not follow this obsession with self-gratification, self-cherishing, and we strongly wish to be free from this state, the sick state, this cowardly, sick, suffering, childish state, ignorant state. Inhale and exhale. In the space in front of us, a weave of the past arises. We imagine ourselves in the moments of the past that we lived with particular suffering, states that today make us suffer. We welcome ourselves with love and kindness, and we breathe in and we bring in this present moment every suffering, every negative karma, every mental defilement, we bring to the present from ourselves of the past. We let it absorb into this black mass at our heart of us here in the present. When we exhale, we emanate light and nectar that brings to ourselves of the past to a state of peace and harmony. We inhale. And we exhale. We visualize in front of us ourselves of the future. Our fears, our worries, of aging, of sickness, or any other particular fear that we may have for our future. And we imagine to take those sufferings onto ourselves here in this present moment. And we offer light and nectar to ourselves of the future, bringing ourselves of the future to a state of peace and joy. We inhale and we exhale. we find ourselves in a state of peace. Peace with our past, peace with our future, and thus at peace with our present. We allow ourselves for a moment to relax in this state of harmony, peace with ourselves. We breathe in. And we breathe out. In this space around us are all other beings, and in particular, our family members, our friends, people that we share our daily lives with, those for whom we have a strong aversion, and also aversion even if we don't know why, and those for whom we have attraction. So all beings that we spend our daily lives with, we imagine them all around us. We see them one by one. We recognize how each one, without exception, suffers, physically, but also mentally, emotionally, how each being is in the end taken by his own cycle of suffering, how each one lives his own cycle of samsara, taken by selfishness. We clearly see this samsaric cycle of each being. Even if each one wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer, taken by his own ignorance, he stays trapped, slave of his own ignorance. Taken by his own ignorance, even if what they want is to be well, even if what they want is to not suffer, they're overpowered by their own selfishness, by their own anger and attachment, and continuously they suffer and create the causes to suffer. There's no difference between any one of them and ourselves. We're all in samsara. We see each one of them, and we're able to recognize that in reality, our own existence depends also on others. Like in every life and every moment, if it weren't for them who are around us, we wouldn't be able to experience a state of joy. We wouldn't even be able to survive. Our most basic happiness depends on each person around us. Even our spiritual growth cannot come about without them. We allow ourselves for a moment to feel gratitude. Even if we don't remember even we can't describe how and why, but each being around us sustains us, helps us much, much more than we can understand. We allow ourselves to feel gratitude, and we thank them. We thank each one without exception. We let this gratitude, that we allow the gratitude to move from our head to our heart. And we allow ourselves to feel gratitude, to be grateful to each and every one, independently of how but each one has helped us, has sustained us, and today we thank them. We depend on them, and we're deeply grateful. And with that, we let this strong desire to want to repay them, to do something for them, we let that arise. That every being around us, may every being around us be happy. We see how close we are to each one, each person for whom we have great gratitude. We allow ourselves to love them. We allow ourselves to desire their happiness. We realize that we see, though, that every being suffers. And we can't just stay indifferent in front of the suffering of those we love. We can't remain indifferent in front of the suffering of those who saved us, who helped us, who sustained us. We see the beings around us and we recognize their suffering. And we're not able to stay indifferent, just stand by. We see, though, that the only thing that we can do in this moment is to interact with them. We can't do anything else. We strongly desire that each one, without exception, be free from any kind of suffering, from the most coarse to the most profound of samsara, that everyone live in a state of peace and satisfaction. And we'll do everything necessary to help every being get out of his own suffering and then thus live in a state of peace. We allow ourselves to say to each one, your happiness is as important to me as my own. I strongly desire you to be happy. Your happiness, your suffering is as important to me as my own. I strongly desire you to be free from every and any form of suffering. we allow ourselves to love them, to feel this strong feeling of affection and closeness, and also of urgency to do something to help every being to whom we are deeply grateful. We ask then the blessings of Guru Buddha to have the strength and the ability to take on ourselves in this very moment every negative karma, every mental defilement, every suffering of every being, beyond the, regardless of whether it's possible or not. It's something we deeply, deeply desire. We strongly desire to be able to take on ourselves in this very moment all the suffering of every being, and to be able to give to every being joy and happiness and peace. We inhale negative karma and mental defilements, sicknesses, physical suffering, mental suffering of every being, specifically and generally, comes to us in the form of a thick black smoke that comes in through our nostrils and absorbs into the black mass at our heart, weakening our own selfishness. We feel joy taking the negativities of other beings onto ourselves, lightening their state of suffering. And as the negativities come to us, the black mass at our heart, our own selfishness actually weakens. We take on ourselves in this very moment selfishness, hate, resentment, sadness, fear, anxiety, depression, mental suffering, emotional suffering, and also physical suffering like hunger, pain, of all beings who surround us. As I exhale, light rays and nectar emanate together with my exhalation that go to every being, transforming into what they need most, like medicine for those who are sick, bringing health to those who are sick, company for those who feel alone, security, protection for those who are in danger, all the way up to bringing Dharma, helping every being reach a state of peace. So that they recognize their own samsara, can change their behavior, and develop a state of mental clarity, recognize the correct view of reality, and free themselves of their cycle of samsara. And in the meantime, we offer them joy, satisfaction, sensory pleasures, a pure environment where there's peace. We inhale every form of negativity and suffering, even going to more and more subtle levels. We give them the ability to reach inner joy and peace from a most coarse level to a most subtle level. We inhale and we exhale. Gradually, the beings around us reach more and more a state of peace. That black mass at our heart becomes lighter and lighter, and we enter to a state of harmony and peace with every being. All beings around us, those close to us, those far from us, they smile. They're in a deep state of peace and satisfaction. We ourselves, we are in a state of peace, and that black mass at our heart is no longer there. Our body is bright. Our mind is joyous and peaceful. We're deeply connected to every being in a state of love and affection, gratitude. Guru Buddha in front of us smiles at us. And we ask from the depth of our hearts that He remain always with us, that He guide us with every choice that we make, every word that we say, every thought that we have. In this life, at death, during the bardo, in all our future lives, may He help us in every moment with the Dharma to help us develop our qualities, to actually help every being get out of the state of suffering. Guru Buddha comes towards us and, getting as small as the thumb, looks in our same direction and enters through our crown into our central channel and sits joyously on an 8-petaled lotus flower on top of a sun and moon disk at our heart. Our body, speech, and mind become inseparable from that of Guru Buddha, and we experience a deep state of infinite inner space, of harmony, with a deep love, a state of bliss.
Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiwar Pede Tenshuala Kadrian Chembo Gone Jesunte Kusun Toge Ngodruba Tsadu Sol Palden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Drimbara Pede Tenshuala Kadrian Chembo Gone Chesunte Chanchu Chodan Tumo Ngodru Tsadu Sol Palden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Ninkara Pede Tenshuala Kadrian Chembo Gone Jesunte Chanchubo Nimbe Pardo Temparashu.
Guru Buddha stays at our heart, and we are inseparable from Him. With the commitment to act for the benefit of all beings, to cultivate generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom, we put ourselves at the service of every being in our choices, our actions. We put ourselves at the service of the Dharma and every being we meet, directly and indirectly. We dedicate our merits to the enlightenment of every being, and we commit to act in our daily lives for the benefit of all. And in particular, we commit to developing our own qualities and to act consistently with love and compassion and equanimity.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar trinle chokchur gepa dang losan tempe drume sasom ki drove munsel taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dralme cheki pela longche ching sadan lamge yunten rabzo ne dorje change kopa nyurtobo sho chanchubo semcho rinpoche make panama ke gyuruchi kepa nyampara me payang kongne konto pelware sho.
May the precious mind of the bodhichitta that has not yet arisen arise and grow. May that which has not yet arisen not degenerate and always and grow evermore.
Which has born have no decline and increase forevermore.
Okay. In this way, we conclude this meditation. We did the Tonlen together not in a very long way. It was about an hour and a quarter, but you can do it even in a much shorter amount of time. What's important is that preliminary practices help us generate the correct motivation and direct our mind. They prepare ourselves to really desire and desire to take on the suffering of others and give the happiness to them. So what I invite you to do, I invite you to try it, to experience it in a short way, in a more in a longer way. If it's too long to do all the preliminaries, you can simply take refuge and go directly to the Tonlen practice, and it should be adapted to each one. I mean, there are those who like to dedicate more time to dedicating to ourselves in the past and the future. Maybe there are those who need to take more from the future self and less from the past self. And maybe there's someone who's at peace with oneself and doesn't need to work so much on one's past self or future self, and they can go directly to taking from others. And as you start taking from others, we can start by we can divide them in categories like humans, or we can think of animals or the different realms of existence. Those who are in our country, those who are far, those who are in war-torn countries, those who are in hospitals sick, those who are imprisoned. We can think of many different situations. And in this way, it becomes longer. We go into more detail. Something that can help, I think, is just to not start with something general, but something specific, something we know that we're in contact with. Think of few, and then they have those with whom they're in contact, and so gradually it expands out. There's an aspect of the visualization. Often it's, it's described, but a lot of emphasis is not always given. It's said to visualize the beings around us in a very suffering state, like sick and dirty, to represent their samsara. It's harder to generate compassion if you imagine, everyone beautiful and strong and dressed well. It's easier if you imagine others in a state of suffering with a heavy face and in a state of sickness. But I think that often we should concentrate mostly on the all-permeating suffering and allow ourselves to go beyond the appearance of the present moment, of how people seem to us, and see that there are times when people seem fine, other times when they don't seem fine, but we're all suffering at the same level. So we desire their happiness on a much deeper level. Before stopping for lunch, I'd like to read the verse of today, and after lunch we'll explain it. So we've practiced verse 6 that says, in short, may I offer, both actually and indirectly, to all my mothers, whatever will benefit and bring them joy. And may I secretly, hiddenly accept on myself all my mother's troubles and woes, their negative karma, their mental defilements. Through a mind untarnished by stains of conceptions concerning the 8 passing things, throughout all of this, and that knows all phenomenon as an illusion, may I break free from my bondage without any clinging.
Traduzione c'è qualcosina che non va tanto bene. Quindi dice Teda Kungan Chökegi Tokpe Time Ma Bakshins. Teda Kungan e tutto questo. Chökegi Tokpe Time Ma Bakshins possa tutto essere libero dallo sporco, libero dall'ostruzione, ma dallo sporco, dalle interferenze. Però la parola trimme, qua viene utilizzato, trima meba viene utilizzato come immacolato, senza macola, quindi qualcosa di puro, però libero da che cosa? Che cosa è che qua viene visto come sporco, come inquinato? Gli 8 dharma mondani. Qua la traduzione dice una mente immacolata da errori concettuali riguardo le suddette 8 cose. Non c'è nulla a che vedere con errori concettuali. E possa io fare tutto questo addestramento di sviluppare altruismo, eliminare l'egoismo, libero dagli 8 dharma mondani. Gli 8 dharma mondani, in poche parole, poi lo guardiamo nei dettagli, vuol dire l'attaccamento alla propria immagine, l'attaccamento ai propri piaceri sensoriali, l'attaccamento ai beni materiali, è una delle forme tramite la quale l'egoismo si manifesta. Quindi possa io praticare effettivamente l'addestramento mentale senza essere inquinato, senza che la mia pratica, che le mie azioni siano inquinate dall'attaccamento alla mia immagine, dall'attaccamento al riconoscimento, dall'attaccamento ai beni materiali, dall'attaccamento ai piaceri sensoriali e così via. In questo modo possa io anche, e allo stesso tempo, possa io praticare con la consapevolezza che riconosce l'aspetto illusorio di ogni fenomeno. Questo parleremo dopo. E tramite la mente che sviluppa l'amore e compassione verso gli altri, libera dall'attaccamento agli 8 dharma mondani e che percepisce ogni fenomeno come un'illusione, quindi non che è un'illusione, ma che percepisce l'aspetto illusorio di ogni fenomeno, in questo modo possa io liberarmi dalla schiavitù del samsara, possa io liberarmi dal mio proprio samsara, shenme, senza attaccamento al mio proprio egoismo, senza attaccamento alla mia propria ignoranza, perché noi abbiamo attaccamento alla nostra identità ordinaria, abbiamo attaccamento comunque sia al nostro egoismo non indifferente, quindi libero da qualunque forma di attaccamento, possa io liberarmi. Ok? Poi dopo pranzo andremo a vedere questo verso, che è il verso di conclusione degli 8 versi dell'addestramento mentale. Ok? Ci fermiamo adesso per pranzo.
Perché Geshe meto tarira rishi nide kempati.
Sangye shindu mikte ulwargi, drugunamda shingla che parasho chetsun lame kutse raptenchi, namkar tinle chokchur gepada, losan tempe drunme sasumki, drove minsel tatu ne gyur, Chiya ye dhamma guru ratna mandrala kam niryata yami. Kyewa kundu yanda lama dan rame chiki pela longche chin sadan lamge yunte rabzone dorje change koba nyurtobe sho nimo dele tsendele Nime kuyan delek shin, ninsen takto delek pe, kuncho sumki chingi lop, kuncho sumki ngodrubo tsol, kuncho sumki trashisho.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Omahun Tumba Lame Sangye Rinpoche, Kyopa Lame Tamche Rinpoche, Trimba Lame Gendurim, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chepa, Lojo Sampo Pagyo Treshe Patuche Tempe Tinleya, Pegedulo Zambe Zebraj, Pande Lame Shela Chepa. Buon appetito.
Have a good lunch. Thank you to everyone.